Hi, welcome to Behind the Scenes with Axiom Medical. I'm your host, Jason McWhinney. If this is your first time joining us, this is a bi-weekly series where we interview people in Axiom Medical that make the company tick. We've been doing this for a little over a year now. We've talked to everyone in different walks of life in the company. And before we get started with our guest today, I wanted to go over one of the our mental health summit that we're having next week. Randall will get to you here in a second. We have a mental health summit, an online free half-day mental health summit that's going to be happening next week on Thursday, November 3rd, 10 a.m. Central to about 2:30 or 3 p.m. Central. We're going to have a variety of speakers. Our keynote is Natasha Bowman from the Bowman Foundation. We're also going to have George L. Vergolius, Jonathan Grau, Daniel Mulatero, as well as our internal experts with our current CEO and president, Mark Robinson, Dr. Les Curte, Dr. Scott Cherry, Chuck Cable, and my boss, the Chief Marketing Officer, Dara Wheeler. So that'll be taking place next week. I'm going to drop a link in the comments. So if you would like to register for that, it's free of charge. By all means, please come to that. It's going to be great. It's fantastic. Spots are filling up, so I would jump on that as quick as I can. So with that, let's get to our guest of the day. Randall Meeks, how are you?
For having me.
I got you muted there. So Randall, how are you today? Thanks for joining us.
No problem. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me. And I'm used to being muted on calls. So.
Well, with that, explain your role here in the company and why you would be muted on calls.
Because I talk a lot for one, but I am the director of sales operations here with the organization. I'm new to Axiom and came from the technology sector. So I'm in my honeymoon phase, learning as much as I can from people like you, Jason, and Dara, and the other leaders in the organization.
And we had the pleasure of meeting each other, kind of thrown to the fire, your first trade show in San Diego last month. I know what it's like to go to a trade show, kind of when you first started. I think there's a few of us in the marketing and sales department that have done that. Victor Rosenblatt, I think that was his first day, was a trade show in New Orleans. Yeah. So you did it with calm and grace, and you learned a lot, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely good learning experience, but what was really exciting was being able to be in a venue like that and actually be able to talk to customers as customers came up and really learn what makes them tick and what they're looking for in occupational health. So it was a really great exercise for me.
And for the folks out there, whether internally or externally, we do a lot of trade shows a year. Prior to COVID, and now that things are swinging back into things again, we do a lot of trade shows, a lot of the safety ones. So this particular one was in San Diego. It was the NSC National Conference. We also do the Gulf Coast one that they have in New Orleans every year, and it's a big one. I mean, it's pretty much the entire convention center, and it's pretty massive. So thanks again for joining us there. So Randall, how did you come to be at Axiom Medical? What brought you here?
I had had a previous relationship with a couple of employees here, and there was a need and a gap in the sales organization for some leadership and in training and development and process and procedure, and all of that kind of falls into, I guess, my specialty in the past, which has been sales operations and learning and development. So got a call and said, hey, would you be interested? And after doing my research and learning more about, the company, I was excited to come and chip in and help kind of steer the sales ship in the right direction here. So.
And we're excited to have you on board and see what the future lies with you and the organization. We went through some growing pains when COVID hit, and then as COVID just went crazy, and now COVID's going a little bit down. We're kind of returning to our older ways pre-COVID, even though it's still out there. How were you in COVID? How did you take it?
Well, whenever the pandemic hit, I was in telecommunications. I was in the technology sector, and it's kind of funny because I think we all have stories when the light went off that, hey, we're kind of shutting things down. I was in California, and it was kind of like mid-flight, and I was flying from California to New Hampshire, and kind of got off the plane and had a training to do, and then realized I really need to hurry up and do this training and get home because all the flights are being canceled. But like most organizations, we all had to pivot, and so being in training and development, there was lots of trainings that we needed to do as we brought work from home in as a new thing to office workers. So it was new. I think it's kind of here to stay, and I think being flexible in everything that you do in an organization is pretty important. And, being able to train people on new processes, new procedures, new tools to help them to run more efficiently. It doesn't matter if you're in sales or in operations. These are all things that help us to connect more with our customers. And I find that this environment allows for us to be present very quickly and be readily available for customers. And that's really what helps out with this entire relationship and with our customers, is just being there whenever they need us. And, things like this, us being on a video call, are pretty important for supporting organizations and your own organization.
Yeah, I'm not sure, what your role was prior to that, and if you were in an office and had to go remote. But one of the things that we talked about as a company, and that we would never be remote, and then the pandemic hit, and we adapted pretty quickly, and realized that this is actually kind of a good thing. It has its pros and cons, its ups and downs, but the fact that we can now become a cross-country company, that we can have people in specific roles that we didn't necessarily need to have them in an office situation. I know for us, for me, February of 2020, at the end of the month, I was in Canada and was flying back, and it still hadn't been in the US. And I kept thinking, am I the one that's going to bring it to America?
It's all your fault.
It was not. It was not.
No, I was just kidding.
It was not. So, Randall, where in the world are you?
Well, I live in Denton, Texas, and that's at the north part of the DFW area. I was born and raised in that area, not in Denton itself, but that's where my wife and I decided to raise our children. Great community, home of two universities, University of North Texas, and Texas Women's University. So it's an exciting town. It's got a nice vibe to it, and as I get older, I try to stay as hip as possible, and those two universities allow for me to do that.
I've been to Denton once. My wife is a Texas Women's graduate, and so she took me up to Denton to show me around, and we walked around the town square, which was fantastic. An amazing used bookstore with lots of great records, and
oh yes.
There's lots of great stuff to do in Denton. I had a friend who had a brewery there for a while, and it's a nice, quaint little area. And if people aren't familiar with Denton, it's basically kind of in between Dallas and Fort Worth, but north.
The edge of the Metroplex. Once you get out of Denton, it's nothing but horse farms up until you get to the Red River, and then you're in Oklahoma. So,
right,
yeah.
And they don't call it do they call it the Red River Shootout anymore, or is it something else? I know Oklahoma and UT, they play in Dallas.
Yeah, they still do. And University of Texas won this year, so just hook 'em horns. Hopefully it doesn't upset anybody, but it's always a great rivalry. I'm missing the old rivalries, as teams change names and things of that nature. But I'm pretty sure that that one will stay, that Red River Shootout. So,
Yeah, as a Canadian, I felt like a fish out of water when my wife and my sister-in-law and my niece, we went to the state fair, sorry,
mm-hmm.
in Dallas, and it was the day of the Red River Shootout, and it was just mobbed with people, and there was a bunch of people that couldn't get into the stadium, but everybody was watching on their phones or had an earpiece in. They were listening to the game, so it's religion. But another thing that I found out that's religion at the state fair is deep frying everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's, for people that have never been to the Texas State Fair, there's an entire hall, a giant hall that's just deep fried stuff.
Yeah, I mean, deep fried Twinkies, deep fried Oreos, a deep fried bacon. I don't know how you deep fry bacon because it's already fried anyway, but you name it, they'll fry it.
I know how, I had deep fried bacon, so they do it deliciously. It was fantastic. So speaking of bacon, food, and whatnot, you told us that your family has a ranch near Danton. Is that correct?
Yes. My wife's family. I married into a family ranch, and it's out in Marietta, Oklahoma. So I've had the luxury, while my wife's sisters have all moved away, we've been the ones who've been here, and got to raise my kids helping out their grandfather out on the ranch. So hard work and taking care of the land and raising cattle, that's always been something that I aspire to do as I get older and become more of an adult, and look for things to do after I retire. That's kind of one of my goals, because I absolutely enjoy it.
That's great. I've been a city boy all my life, so farm and ranch stuff is foreign to me. But living in Texas, I've had a lot of friends that have lived in various different, half farming, half in the city. It comes with the territory of living in Texas. You're gonna run into people of all walks of life here, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's therapeutic. I mean, it makes you healthy because you work hard, and but there's a calmingness to it, especially if you really enjoy just to be out in nature. So we do a lot of hunting, a lot of fishing, and just getting away from the hustle and bustle of daily life in a metropolitan area. It's always nice to be able to just escape a little bit.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I tend to wait a few months and then head out to West Texas, out into the desert, Big Bend area, and that's kind of my centering moment, my little zen inside the hustle and bustle that is known as Houston, Texas.
Yeah, very much so. I drove in this morning, and I was like, I am so close, but yet I'm still an hour away.
Yeah. Houston is an hour away from Houston. Yeah. That's for sure. I grew up just outside of Toronto, and Toronto is around the same population, maybe a little bit more than Houston. But Toronto is way more concentrated. In Houston, when I moved here, I was like, it's almost like someone lifted Toronto up about 200 feet and then dropped it and just spread apart. It's so wide. You need a car to get into Houston, to get anywhere in Houston. Whereas Toronto, you can take the subway, take streetcars, you can walk around. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Been to Toronto, by the way. Yeah. Got introduced to Tim Hortons.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And they're all over the place.
Yeah, there's a Tim Hortons in my neck of the woods. I think there's more Tim Hortons per capita than any other part of the country. We also have kind of the most hockey players in any part of the country per capita. But there's Tim Hortons here now in Katy, which is just west of Houston. Oh, wow. And then there's one opening up not too far from me, maybe about 8 miles or something like that. So I'll have to go and try it out and see if they have any Timbits. And for the Canadians out there, we order coffee very specifically. I like 2 creams and 2 sugars. That's known in Canada as a double-double. So when I first moved to Houston, I ordered a double-double at Starbucks. They looked at me like I was insane. I was just so used to it. So yeah, Tim Hortons is great. Let's see. We got a comment here from Claire. It says, "We love the energy and passion you've brought to Axiom." Thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Claire.
Maybe
Yeah, one of the things I try to do is I try to be really real in meetings. There's nothing worse than a staunch meeting, and I like to try to bring a little bit of humor, but also just be realistic and call a spade if it comes up and I don't think something's going to work, and then again, I also listen to what other people have to say, because I do not know everything. And like I said, I'm new to this industry, and I rely on people like Claire and Jason and others in the organization to help kind of guide me and push me in the right direction as I make my decisions. Because any decision we make in an organization has a ripple effect. And you may not think about it, but having a good connection with marketing, with IT, with the other departments and operations helps you to kind of realize the impact of the decisions you make within your own organization and how it affects other people. So
you're preaching to the choir.
Yep.
I've often thought that sales and marketing should work in tandem, and I'm not the first person to have that idea, but it definitely makes the organization stronger.
Well, I've learned, right? I've learned because in my past, I really didn't think that way, but I found I couldn't get anything done, right? And so, as we kind of grow in our own, work relationships, we tend to learn these lessons. And so thankfully, it's something that I've learned. And quite frankly, it's rather enjoyable because, you feel like you have teammates instead of working against, each other.
100%. I agree totally. We in the marketing team, we always try to work with the sales team because, we're creating a material for the salespeople to make the job easier for salespeople and whatnot. But there's always a give and go with that.
No, you're exactly correct.
So Elias, who actually works for us, but he's based in Vancouver, Canada, says Tim Hortons is amazing, double.
Yep.
So Vancouver, for people that don't know, I'm surprised if you don't, but on the west coast of Canada, just north of Seattle, fantastic, beautiful city, picturesque. If you have any chance to get there, please do. I lived there many lives ago, and it was fantastic. Sarah says, are there any good regional chains people should check out in Texas? Now, Randall, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys in Denton have this, but in Houston, we have Shipley Donuts.
You know what? There is a Shipley's Donuts, but if you're talking about just Texas, it's got to be a Whataburger, right? Mm-hmm. And so, if you love hamburgers, you have the whole West Coast flair of In-N-Out, if you like In-N-Out. But here in Texas, it's the big orange stop sign. It's Whataburger.
Yeah,
that is the one.
When I first came to Texas, one of the guys that I was with said, and this is like a Houston drawl, "Hey, do you want a Whataburger?" And I was like, "What is a Whataburger?" And we drive up to Whataburger. I'm like, "Oh, what a burger!" Gotcha. Yeah. So Sarah, Whataburger, Texas based. I think they're in other states now, but definitely Texas.
They've grown. But yeah, that to me, that's what pops up when you ask, what should I check out in Texas? It's always, for me, it's always going to be, you got to check out Whataburger, and you need to check out Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
Right. So
I'm not sure. And for that question is based on Sarah's going to be coming here in a couple of weeks. Sarah is on the graphics team here in the marketing department, and Fantastic. She will be coming to Houston in a couple of weeks. So she's probably looking for something to check out. Whataburger is definitely it. I'm not sure if there's a Shipley by you, but Shipley is a great coffee shop donut place, much like Tim Hortons. Let's see. We got another comment from Elias. Says, I'm looking forward to trying Whataburger when I'm in Texas next month. Thank you, Randall.
Oh, you're welcome. You have to let me know whenever you're in town.
We'll have to, maybe I'll have to show up with a box of taquitos for them.
Yes. Or a breakfast on a bun.
Oh, yeah. Claire said Whataburger just opened up in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Well, there you go. We're bringing it out there. There's some good chain places out in Tennessee as well.
For sure. So outside of work, outside of the farm ranch, where can we find Randall?
You know what? Just being a dad. I'm a dad of three fine young men. My oldest is 23. My middle son's 22, and then my youngest is just turned 15, and he's in ninth grade. So I stay busy with extracurricular sports with him, baseball. We have my wife owns an antique shop, so I find myself being a porter and carrier of and mover of furniture for her, just to keep the shop stocked and full. So no rest for the wicked. I've got a couple of different bosses. That's what I tell everybody, and she's definitely one of them. So whatever she wants, I say yes, ma'am, and try to keep her happy. And that is the key to 27 years of marriage. So,
wow, 27. That's a long
yeah.
time. And three.
I believe I'm back now, but yet you're still muted. Sorry.
I'm muted. There we go. We were both muted there for a second. Technical difficulties. That's what happens when you produce and they're also interviewing at the same time. The buttons get a little wonky.
Yeah.
Got a lot of things going on here. I'm talking a little inside baseball for everybody, but I'm the one that produces everything and does stuff like, this and that and this, all of that, and shows comments and all that. So get a little wonky. But anyways, back to my question. Where you and your wife, your kids, you got any plans, any trips planned in the future, going anywhere exciting?
We love to travel. We try to make a yearly trip, and we normally do back to where her family is from, Pennsylvania, and just north of Williamsport, where they have the Little League World Series, both to see family and do some antique shopping, because the antiques up in the Northeast are a lot different than the antiques that we have around here. But I really don't have, other than a trip like that, I really don't have anything planned as of yet. Taking a break a little bit on some of the traveling, because we reached a milestone and a goal that we had since we started traveling and since we've been together. We visited all 50 states, and we visited North America. Well, we've been to Canada, some places in Canada and in Mexico. So we kind of hit that all 50 state mark. And I'd have to say, if I was to rank the states that I enjoyed the most traveling to, number one would be Alaska, just because the outdoors feel. And now, it was not in winter, of course. Couldn't catch me there in winter, because even though I'm from Texas, I am not tough enough for that. You really have to be tough in order to do that. But I thoroughly enjoyed myself in Alaska, and that's probably a place that I would like to go to every year, and especially in June.
Beautiful. I've never been. Had some friends from there, but never been to Alaska. I'd like to go sometime.
Yeah, don't do the tour. Just dive in and soak it all up. Just fly into Anchorage and rent a car and go.
Words of wisdom. I think I'll try that sometime. I've been to Mile Zero of the Alaska Highway, but I've never been actually in Alaska. And I think that's the most northern I've ever been, up in Dawson's Creek or Dawson City. I can't remember which one it is in British Columbia. But anyways, so I think we're getting close to the end here. Randall, do you have any parting thoughts, any words of wisdom, anything you want to share with people, anything we may have missed?
No, I'll just like to say I appreciate for those employees of Axiom that are on here and anyone else. I have thoroughly enjoyed the response to me coming in and the atmosphere and the culture, one of collaboration and helping people out. And I'm surprised that I'm here for 60 plus days, a little bit over 60 days, and I'm being interviewed here. But I definitely appreciate it. And like I said, let's keep this same culture that has been given to a guy like me being onboarded, and let's make that. Let's repeat that for every single new hire that we have. And I think everyone will be like me and say, good choice coming here. So.
I would have interviewed you on your first day, but you had stuff to do that day.
Yeah, I did.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I do want to say, if you're out there, you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, there's a comment in there for a link for our half-day mental health seminar next week. Please join us. It's free. We've got a lot of fantastic speakers that are going to be there. It's going to be great. And with that, I'll say thank you, Randall, and we'll say goodbye to everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank
Bye.
you.